I start the Pacific Crest Trail tomorrow, and I wanted to document how my mental health changes over the course of the trail. I have on and off had mental health struggles, so I just wanted to let you know where I feel like I'm at today, the day before I start, and then I'll redo this when I finish. And I just basically decided on rating different things that I find tend to fluctuate depending on how mentally well I'm feeling. Lately, I would say on average my anxiety has been like a 4 out of 10, and there have been moments when it's spiked to like 10 out of 10 and then when it's lower, but I would say right now on an average basis, like I'm feeling a little bit of anxiety about something, and I'm making decisions based on whether or not I'm going to feel anxious about it. I find my threshold for an anxiety spike is low. Like it's easy to trip that threshold right now. Depression, I have not really been feeling much in terms of depressive symptoms overall over the last several weeks or month. I would give it like a 1 out of 10, like where 10 out of 10 would be like super depressed. So I'm not feeling very depressed at all right now, which is really nice. I decided to rate my confidence because I find my confidence will plummet when I'm not doing well mentally. And I would say I'm at like a 5 out of 10 right now. So I'm like halfway. I find myself getting confident or like, okay, I've hiked a lot, I know I can do this. And then I find it dropping and me being like, there's no way I can do this. So I'm fluctuating, but probably staying around a 5. My motivation levels in general have been quite low. I would say like a 2 out of 10. And that's mostly because, yes, I have like motivation to like do this hike, but for like a day-to-day basis for doing things I know that I need to do for myself to feel good or just like get stuff done, I have to work really hard to like create motivation because it's not really there. Well, like 2 out of 10 times it's there. So that's been a barrier, I would say, over the last couple months for me. And then I also rated my social battery because I know that I'm like burnt out, not doing well when I really want to hermit and I don't want to talk to anyone. And so if a full battery, like I had energy and I wanted to socialize, would be a 10 out of 10. And I gave myself a 2 out of 10 now. So I definitely have like a desire to meet people. But then as soon as I start talking to someone, I notice my battery drain so quickly. So my tolerance to exposure to socialization, I would say, is extremely low. So that's why I'm giving myself a 2 out of 10. Like I've got the desire, but then my actual ability to do it is very low. So that's where I feel like I'm at right now. Bit high anxiety, low motivation, and easily drained social batteries right now. So I'll see you again in 2,600 miles or however long I end up hiking for. I got back from the PCT a couple days ago. So I was on trail for like 4.5 months or so. And for the last week, I paid attention to my mental health the whole time so that I could give you an update on where my mental health was at when I finished the trail and where it was at on a regular basis when I finished the trail. So I gotta rate everything again. My anxiety, I would say I have to give it a 1 out of 10, but actually most of the time it was a 0 out of 10, but it would just spike with certain things if they were going on. So like if I was getting into town and I didn't know if I was gonna get my ride in time, or I didn't know how I was gonna get into town, I would get an anxiety spike with that and I would feel the symptoms of anxiety. But I was actually most of the time at a 0, but because of those spikes, I'll give myself a 1 out of 10 at the end. Depression, I would say was a 0 out of 10. I didn't have any symptoms of depression. My confidence, I would say I was probably like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. My confidence got way up. And I just felt more sure of who I am and sure of what I wanted to do with my life, I guess. And so I felt like, yeah, my confidence was like at a healthy level. It's nice having coffee at home. My motivation levels I rated as a 2 out of 10 before, so 10 out of 10 would be like highest motivation. I would say my motivation levels were like an 8 out of 10. And then my social battery, I would say my personal regular social battery got charged back up to 10 out of 10. But something I've realized about myself in the last few years, and even on this hike as well, is my personal version of social battery is smaller than I think the average person. I'm like way on the low end of how much social energy I have. So like if other people have like a car battery size, I feel like I have like a double A. I just feel like I have way less reserve for that. So even though I got myself to my 10 out of 10, that's definitely not what other people have, I don't think. I'm definitely on the low end. I noticed I did see a lot more people when I was at the end of my hike. So my last week, I started to run into more people. I started to make friends. I started to meet up with old friends. So I had more social time. I noticed symptoms of anxiety starting to increase a little bit, just like a little bit from 0, maybe up to 1 or 2. And then I would reach a point where I felt like I need to remove myself because I felt my anxiety going up to a 4 or a 5. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the people I'm around. The people were amazing. And in so many ways, it felt so good to be amongst people and to chat with them and to have this shared experience with them. And I felt so happy about that. And I got a lot out of that, and I was just like so grateful to be part of that. But then I reach a threshold where I start to feel like I no longer have the capacity to participate in that social activity. So I guess in a sense, I really noticed myself hitting that threshold more than I've ever noticed before. Like I was really tuned into that. So that was really cool. So I listened to that. And so when I reached that point, I would either just hike away, because that's totally part of the culture in through hiking. Like nobody ever expects you to like stick to them like glue. So I would just hike away, or I would take a break and say, oh, just go ahead without me, I'll see you later. Or yeah, do things like that. And that was super helpful for me to really tune into that threshold and then actually take action, even though like in my heart, often I really wanted to stay with the people because I loved being part of the group, or I loved the conversations we were having. In my heart, I wanted to stay, but my body was telling me like, you're reaching your threshold. So that's how my mental health changed. It dramatically improved very quickly. Like I would say I reached those secondary values within the first month. I would say I got a lot more understanding and felt, you know, the natural fluctuations of mental health as I went, but definitely was so good for my mental health, and honestly such a relief to feel such low anxiety. Wow, it felt so good. And considering I was out there to not find myself per se, but come back to myself after such a difficult time looking after my husband through his PTSD, undiagnosed PTSD, diagnosis, and then starting to access treatment. It was a few years of really intense caregiving, really stressful, hypervigilant, high anxiety times. I was completely burnt out. And I also made some mistakes throughout the process. I gave too much of myself. I didn't take good enough care of myself throughout the process. So I know that some of that was because I didn't do the best job or make the best decisions along the way for caring for myself. But I'm really glad that I did the hike for my mental health. It was amazing. I always learn more about myself on these hikes, but I also needed something to reset my nervous system. And I definitely feel like I did that. Thank you for being interested in this topic. It's something I'm super interested in, and I hope you'll join me for the next video.
I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. I'm trying to make this darkness go away. I'll paint with colors and I'll sing until my lungs give out.